Hello, thank you for joining me this afternoon, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are and safe and taking good care of yourself. This month, we've been talking about keeping our cognitive abilities intact, reversing cognitive decline, staying healthy, and bright and aware. And I haven't had a chance to listen to Dr. McCarthy or Amy's webinars. So I know you got a lot of great information on the basic things like limiting or getting your inflammation down, limiting sugar, all those great tips and things that you can do if you're starting to see yourself change or family members. So I thought I would keep going with that and share some things that are really important. And also, you may notice that a lot of them are things that if you are doing your daily practice, that a lot of those things are part of that, and for a good reason. So one of the most important things to do, and if you, I know Dr. McCarthy was going to talk about Dr. Bredeson's new book and his RECODE program, and so I highly recommend that. He mentions meditation a lot, and that is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves, for our brains. Studies have shown it increases blood flow and improves spatial and our working memory, as well as there's a lot of evidence that it even helps to increase gray matter. So it's just something that I really recommend you bringing into your life. Now, the sweet spot is around 20 minutes, but I wouldn't, get caught up in that. Like, start where you are. You could do 5 minutes a couple times a day. There's going to, we've talked a lot about this before. That's why it's called a practice. And so there may be days when you just are like really struggling, but your win is just committing to that practice. I really love mindfulness meditations, but I've talked to some of you that, may have had a past work, doing like transcendental meditation or some other styles of meditation. I don't think it really matters. I think what really makes a difference is just continuing to commit to that. So I hope if you aren't already doing that, that's something that you will add into your life. The next one is mindfulness. So sometimes that gets confused with mindful meditation, but it's actually more of a way of being in life and practicing sort of what we think of as being present. Also, I really like to think of it as just being that curious observer. So you'll notice in the workbook there a couple page in, we talked about how largely our behaviors and our thoughts and the way we react is unconscious, like up to 90%. And mindfulness is a approach that helps us to bring into consciousness a lot of the things that we do without thinking. And so just being sort of curious, like, I noticed that I reacted to that person in a sort of odd way. Or, I wonder why I'm doing this, or what kind of feelings am I having right now? Those are really powerful ways to bring yourself back into the present. And being in the present is so important, because we're going to talk a little bit later about long-term memory and short-term memory, and why, how that's often evaluated as when one is thinking, or a little bit concerned about their cognitive health. Also, part of that is that being present is a way of really helping with brain fog. A lot of brain fog. Now, there's a lot of reasons for brain fog, and it can very much be, something that's going on physically, but it can also be a habit of just not being present, not listening. Many of us never learned how to listen, or maybe it felt painful, and it is something that takes a lot of energy. It takes up brain calories, and we're not designed to be able to, pay attention for that long of time. So we do have to work at it. So any kind of practice or any kind of books or things that can help you to be in the present. And sometimes the present is not where we want to be. One of my favorite quotes from Eckhart Tolle is, for, during crisis or during times when things are really feel horrible and we want to check out, is, can you accept the unacceptable? And I really love the spaciousness about that, is because sometimes, if we're dealing with an acute situation or acute grief or loss, just like doing our best to be present to what is. And this is just sort of my view of somebody who's worked in the mental health field for many years, is part of that also is, this is a time to deal with your stuff. I have seen a lot of people who don't deal with the emotions, regrets, resentments, things that keep you, those are things that will keep your brain really clogged up. And remember how we're always having to work very hard to override those old associations. Well, they keep you in that sort of stuck place. So whatever tools that you need to do, or work, or things that you need to do for yourself, I highly recommend that, because the older we get, the harder it gets to do that. So by the time you may be, a lot, for most, other than, early cognitive decline, most things start showing up, or, well, they start showing up very early, but we don't always pay attention to them, but they become really noticeable to our family and to ourselves. Probably, I think on average, like mid-70s and through early 80s. So now is the time, well, any time is time, regardless of your age, to deal with some of those things so that they are not clogging up your brain and your body and your whole nervous system. So those are kind of the main overall things that I would love for you to incorporate, and they're things that are very important in my life. Now, the next list are things that are challenges, and I'll share with you some that are easier and harder, and then I'll give you an opportunity to share that too if you'd like. So a big one is not multitasking. And since I was a kid, I used to do my homework when I had the TV on. I'd come home from school and turn on the TV. I still love on the weekends putting on old movies and having them in the background. And I was good at this for a while. I had this rule that if I was watching a movie or watching TV and my phone beeped at me or I wanted to do something, that I was going to pause it and then give my attention to the phone. And that worked for a while, but I wasn't consistent with it. So it's really important to think about like how, and I will say women are fabulous at this. And sometimes maybe you brag about this being a great tool. But as you get older, it's something to think about, like how, and it really fits in with being present too. Like, how can I just really give my attention to this? And so something to think about, something to work on. One of my favorite ones that you don't ever have to convince me is laughter. Laughter is so important. There's been a lot of really beautiful studies about using laughter for cancer patients who are getting treatment like chemotherapy, and being able to watch funny movies and having comedians come in and laughing, and how powerful that is. Not only does it lower cortisol, but also there's a lot of evidence that it even improves our immune system. So there's a great stand-up on Netflix right now. There's a lot of new ones that are out, pulling out some old sitcoms that you enjoy, having them on, especially like before you go to bed. And, I've talked about this before, especially while you're working on your brain. You really, I think, want to default to fun and funny and corny, and not a lot of violence. So whatever you can do to get your funny on, I highly recommend it. Another one that's kind of interesting is there's been a lot of studies of taking groups of people that begin to start showing cognitive decline. And actually, the busier you are, the healthier your brain is. So this is something to think about for those of you that might be thinking about early retirement, that really making sure that you've got a lot of things going and happening for you. I know sometimes it feels like you can't wait. My dad was a great role model for this, for me. He retired at a pretty young age, in his early 60s, from working for the state. He was a judge. And he immediately had kind of his second business doing mediation. So he didn't change fields, but he could work for himself, and he was still in the field and still keeping things going. And he worked up until his early 80s. And I thought that was really amazing. And I'm grateful for that role model of somebody to keep going. So something to think about, and maybe doing some further reading on. Okay, another one. Reading books is very good for your brain. I love to read. About 6 years ago, I discovered Audibles and audiobooks. I mean, I used to, in the car, listen to like CDs and audiobooks, but I kind of switched to audiobooks quite a bit. Except for especially more recently, when I'm reading anything that's nonfiction or something for work or something that it's like I knew this, like my retention is so much better. And oftentimes you want the book, for reference. It's so funny because sometimes when people will bring up a book and it's one I listen to, an audiobook, and I will actually remember what I was doing when I was listening to it. So that's further proof that I was multitasking. So I might say, oh yeah, I remember that book. I was cleaning my garage or doing something. So I probably won't completely let go of my audiobook love or podcasts. But I am really looking at how to, start bringing in some more, in the evening reading books. Again, this might be a conflict for you. It is a little bit of a conflict for me. Like, do you use your e-reader? I have certainly my blue blocking glasses. I just got a brand new pair that fits over my glasses that I really love. And some that flip on. So there's a lot of different kinds that you can use, but I'm still, using electronics. So working that out, work in progress. I'll keep you posted on that. Some other fun things you can do. Now, this is something I've kind of looked into, but I don't have a whole lot of experience, and people frequently ask me about this. Different brain games. and puzzles. So there's, Luminosity, Brain HQ, what's another one? Peak. I'm not familiar with that one, but I've heard about it. And so I think they're all great. So whichever one you like or hear about or get as a gift, certainly easy. You could do crossword and Sudoku. And if you do one, you might try the other. Remember how our brains love novelty. So they love, ooh, what's new and different and special. And we want to do it, where we feel safe and in our wheelhouse. So just stretching just a little bit, or nudging, as I like to say. So finding something to do. I would probably be more inclined to do crosswords rather than Sudoku, because I'm not huge on numbers. So based on what I just said, I should probably get up some Sudoku books and try that. So that would be a really big challenge for me to do that. So, then the rest are things like that I use a lot and recommend, and we've talked about them in terms of our brain retraining. That just little things that you can do for yourself and feeling good about. Like going to the grocery store and not taking your list, or tucking it away and then just checking it at the last minute. And then you can just feel really awesome about yourself that you remembered everything. Getting a phone number and memorizing it. I mean, speaking of like long-term and short-term memory, I still remember my best friend's from childhood's phone number. And of course, my parents still have the same phone number they had from my childhood. So that's easy. But, I think about this from time to time, like certain people that are important in my life, I don't know their phone number. And, even my brother, since he moved down here was since the era of cell phones. So every once in a while I back those up, but just to know them. So that would be another fun kind of thing to do and practice. One that has really helped me a lot is that when I'm thinking about something, I do it right then. So, and this is good for anybody that's kind of on the ADD or ADHD spectrum that tends to have a brain that goes boop, 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 all over the place. So, an example is, I've got a dentist appointment. I want to make sure I take my headphones. And so if you think of it then, that's when you go and do it. And you stick it in your purse or by the door or by your keys. If I'm going to bring I need to bring something to so-and-so, you go do that now, and don't trust yourself to do it in the morning or do it before you go. And one, because you just want to set yourself up to be awesome and for things to work better, but also it's another way to celebrate those successes so your brain isn't struggling. Like having those kinds of struggles are exhausting. Where you have to leave and then drive back in and go get something. So if you're doing a lot of that right now, that is a sign that, one, you may not be present, or you're doing too much, you're not focusing. So that might be a little bit of a sign there if you're really scattered and you're forgetting things and having to do that. Do that trick where you do it while you're thinking about it. And it feels really good to do that. Another one that I love to do is, I love to celebrate when things are going well, again, because your brain is emotion and you want to give it emotion, is if you have things that like move around the house, like your iPad or your phone or your keys or your glasses, things that you don't have on all the time, when you know where they are and you boom, go find them, it's like, yay, look at me, look how smart I am. Or even more amazing is like something maybe that you don't use very often. Like the other day I was looking for some Gorilla Glue and I went right to the drawer where I thought it should be, and it was there, and I was really quite proud. Digging through papers, like where you have spatial memory and you remembered where they were. So, and the other side to that is don't be really hard on yourself if it's not there or if it takes you a couple trips. It's just something to be aware of, like, because this is the kind of thing that physicians are going to be looking at. much of the, the kind of cognitive tests, which are pretty basic, that one might take if you go into the doctor and say, I'm a little bit concerned, are very much about short-term memory. And so anything that you can do to keep your short-term memory going is going to really help. If you find yourself or you're around somebody who tends to tell a lot of stories from the past, that might be a sign too of the brain kind of spending, too much time. You want to be, thinking about, what's going on in the present or, the immediate past. So this last week. So you'll notice that, your daily program has a lot of these features. So as you're doing out your daily rehearsal, you're cognitively, you're being present, you're thinking about what needs to be done, you're evaluating, does this need to be done by me today or later? Am I running around too much? Am I not doing enough? You're really taking stock and, holding that in place, what's important. And you're reviewing it in your 5-minute journal. How did the day go? What went well? What did I do well? Your pleasant surprise, and remembering it, because, oh my gosh, I have them all the time. And then I'll go, gosh, I remember there was something really great and I was going to remember it. Those are really great tools to keep your brain firing and thinking about the present. So, just long haul wise, you really want to be looking for that. Like, how am I really tracking in the present? Am I finding my brain going back too much? And it's worthwhile to be able to look at that and to think about things in the past, but it can also be a tiny bit of a warning sign if that is where your brain is going a lot, like to the good old days or to these old stories. And some of that may just be a habit that you're in, or might be the way you connect. But I would like to encourage you to really think about how, what do I have to look forward to? And what is interesting today? What am I reading, or what am I working on? So those are some really good things to think about. I hope that there were some helpful ones. I would love to hear from anybody with what might be a challenge for them, and then also any other tips or tools or things that you've done that you want to share that I can read out and share. So does anybody you want to raise your hand, have a comment? Okay, I don't see anybody going all in to share. So going once, going twice. So I hope those helped, and I hope it encouraged. Oh, ooh, I got one. Yay. Okay. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Yes. How to not multitask while eating. I'm guessing that that's going to be a challenge. Yes, Miss Audiobook here, who takes the audiobook in while eating. The struggle is real. Yes. So set little tiny goals for doing that and really reward yourself. That's what I'm going to do. It's not going to be all or nothing. And so just being conscious and aware, reading even, that, that's something many of us have been doing our whole lives. It's also really good for mindful eating too, is to just be present and eat. And I recommend this like with sweets, like when you're having things a little bit off the plan, don't do it while you're eating or watching TV. Really be present and enjoy that. So a good practice. Thanks for sharing that. And does anybody else have any tips that you think have worked for you or that you'd like to share with the community here? Any of the brain games, anybody have experience with those? Because like I said, I've looked at them just to kind of preview them, but I've never actively used them. And it might be something I'd like to do in the future. So, okay, well, again, thank you for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it. And I hope this inspires you and makes you feel so good about what you're doing, because those of you that are here, you are so lucky that are involved in our program and working on your health is, really going to move you forward in your health journey. So take good care, and I'll see you next month.